Thank you for coming. We'll start with history. When you go back 2000, more than 2000 years. There was a Greek philosopher, Parmenides. He's a weird guy, to some extent. He did said few claims, and all of them obvious. We can start to understand him from this. We'll show a deduction path or something. He said the first case, there is an existence. Okay, we all agree on that, and there is nothing but existence. Okay. Second case, motion requires a void, which is nothing, Adam. So in order for an object to move from A to B, if B is occupied, it cannot move, right? Okay, but there is not only existence, as we said previously. So there is no void, no motion. So motion is delusion. It's just a delusion of the senses, not a real thing. When an object moves, doesn't really move. That's what he said. Okay, so senses are misleading. All the diversity you see in the universe or in the world, it refers to one, which is the existence. Okay. So the existence, the properties of the existence is one, full, static, doesn't move, complete, and continuous. There is no discontinuity. He's the father of monism, a philosophical approach or a school of thought. Well, everything you need to know is mostly nonsense. It has been criticized a lot, and it's full disproven philosophically or easily. Because it's nonsense, he gets bullied a lot. By another philosophers, especially by Heraclitus. He had a lot of arguments with Heraclitus, and when Aristotle came, also he criticized Parmenides. Everyone like that. Okay. Parmenides had a student, Zeno of Eel. This Zeno is more famous than his teacher, much more famous. You can, lots of Qaboos books mention him and analyze some of his work. Zeno did not like the bullying of his teacher, so he prepared the revenge. Took the revenge in the political intellectual teacher. So. And geopolitical, it's not a joke. He actually tried to overthrow a king back then. Right? This is the revenge. It's a Zenon paradox known as this. He said, in order for an object to move from A to B, let's say for 1 meter, it needs to cross the half of the distance. All right, and to move half the distance, it needs to cross the half of the distance, fourth of the distance, and half of the fourth, so 8, and so on. So it needs to move infinite parts of space, sum of infinite parts of space. If that's the case, an object would need infinite time to move that infinite sum of parts. Okay, and so that. Motion is delusion, because you don't have infinite time, but we see things move in a finite time. For example, we can move 1 meter in a split second. So motion is delusion, just as his teacher said. So he disproved the others by proved his teacher by disproving the others. Okay. note that the distance is finite, 1 meter, but it sums. It is in the same time sum of infinite parts. Of course, there is an objection directly, immediately. Some people say, imagine the line of numbers, okay? In the line of numbers, between 1 and 2, there are infinite numbers between them. So there is no logical contradiction, and it does work fine. The answer to this, in the line of numbers, the infinity there between them, we don't push it to reality. That's the problem. In Zenon paradox, we do push it to reality. In line of numbers, it's not a problem to mentally divide the numbers there infinitely many times. We'll discuss it in the details. Okay, so does infinity exist in reality? This is a simple case. Imagine if water was continuous, and you can divide the matter of water to infinity. What would the shape when you pour up a water will be like? Assuming there is a force, gravity, normal gravity. What do you expect the shape of water to go? If the water is continuous, the matter of the water. It will be like when you divide, it will go to minus infinity there. This is if water was continuous, meaning if you can split it infinitely many times. But when you bring the atomic view of the water, the picture comes clear. You see drops of water. You don't see water come infinite thing there. Okay. And actually, this case is mentioned in the Quran, and Muslim philosophers will know it, and also Greek, Aristotle and his guys. He said, and he counted everything in number. So everything but he is counted in number. But he, except he. So if okay, now if infinity cannot exist, and before we go further, we need to distinguish between two things: mathematical space, some people call it the absolute space, there is various names for it, and the physical space. Alright? The mathematical space is just the space that you imagine in your mind. You can imagine infinite dimensions everywhere in space in your mind, and there is no problem. Even if infinity exists there, you can split infinity, or you can go to infinity. There is no problem in your mind. That's the mathematical space. All right. Some people call it the Kantian space because Immanuel Kant like this. And then the physical space. As soon as when you put two physical objects in a space, immediately there is a physical space. You can imagine them as a superposition of some kind. All right. Now, the physical space. This is the space that should not contain infinity. So when you push infinity here, there is weird stuff go. So, for example, to prove it, imagine two objects, others. If we were to push an infinity of distance between them, we require one of two. Infinite force or energy to push them with infinite speeds in two directions. This is an impossibility because bring infinite energy, and then we'll discuss. And the second one is maybe someone would say we can push them with finite speeds. All right, they'll reach infinity, but with infinite time. Okay, but you see, you either have infinite space or time. Okay, with infinite time, this is no problem, because we should say, as Aristotle said, that infinity by potentiality can exist. It can exist. It does not exist all at once. It can part of it can exist at one time. All right. So when you say I'll give it infinite time, that doesn't contradict the claim that infinity does not exist in reality at once. At once. This is a vital word. Okay, so quiz time. When those questions are asked a lot in cosmology and astrophysics. Cosmologists say those two questions: what was before the Big Bang and where was the universe before the Big Bang, have no meaning. Which space they are talking about? The physical or the mathematical? Raise your hand. No? No, not the physical.
Mathematical.
Yes, they are talking about the physical, but the distinguish. Yes, the physical. Yes. So these questions are mental questions. So no, astrophysicists, cosmologists in particular, they claim that these questions have no meaning. Yes, they have no meaning in the context of physics, but apart from physics, it's fine. You can mentally ask them whenever you want and however you want. Okay. Now we'll come to the second part, which is solution for Zenon paradox. We shall discuss four solutions. There are many mathematicians, philosophers, physicists throughout the history try to break down the paradox and resolve it. Okay, the first one is Aristotle's solution. Aristotle, actually, we don't need to introduce Aristotle. He's Aristotle. He actually, when trying to resolve it, introduced two concepts, philosophical concepts. The first one exists by potentiality, or بالعربي الوجود بالقوة. It is, for example, a thing has a potential to exist, but it does not really exist. It does not, but it can be a property of a thing, not necessarily a thing. All right. For example, a baby is talked by potentiality, meaning he has the ability to talk, but he is not talking. He cannot at that time. But he has the ability because he'll grow and talk. And exist by actuality. This is when a thing has a potential to exist, and it does exist. So he introduced them. They help a lot in philosophy, but they don't solve the problem. Okay. This is his claim, and it's true, this one. Aristotle said that infinity cannot exist at once by actuality. So it only can exist at once by potentiality. Okay? And this has no problem, the claim itself. Everyone agrees. But with Aristotle, time is infinite. So the universe, the world have no start, have no end, right? This directly will contradict with his first claim, which we agree on. But he said it seems to contradict, but imagine here is for example, there is the future and there is the past, right? He said the whole line is forbidden to exist at one time, right? But it does not contradict, but because the present is only exists at one time, all right? And this analysis contains, if you go deeper, contains some logical problem, because you are you're talking about the present and you say at once. So if you go deep, there weird stuff you do. Okay, so he does not contradict himself. Time is infinite with Aristotle. Okay, but it exists at one. Only the present exists at once. So it does not. The infinity of time does not exist as a whole at once. Right? Okay. Here, since there cannot be an infinity exists at once, the distance that object moves is finite. All right. Therefore, it would require finite time to cross it. As we can see, even when you apply the analysis that he applied, still the problem is there. He just let's say make it more problematic. Aristotle. Okay. And the analysis of existence by actuality and potentiality, I dropped it because it'll go very long. Not complicated, but it's quite long. As you see, the paradox. We see in the paradox distance require an infinite part of time. But with Aristotle, the universe at once has no finite time. At once, in the paradox, it must have. Otherwise, the 1 meter won't be crossed. All right, so he didn't solve it really. Okay. Immanuel Kant solution. This is a very lazy solution, but it's fantastic to discuss. Immanuel Kant, he's a German philosopher. Of course, he's first class, and it's top of the top. So he's with Aristotle and the rest. His philosophies keep influencing us until today. This is his famous work, Critique of Pure Reason, well known. Einstein read it when he was 16, and it is very, very difficult book to read. Okay, now his solution. Kant argued that space and time in nature are subjective properties of the mind. So there is no really any kind of existence outside for space and time outside the mind, right? So we distinguished before between the mathematical space and time and the physical space and time. So he denied that there is any kind of physical space and time. All right. Of course, he was. This view is new, and it contradicts a lot of people's thoughts. Newton's, Leibniz, Volk, a lot. It contradicts even physics itself. When you calculate the trajectory of something, you might stop in the middle and remember that time and space, the trajectory, the space you are calculating is nothing but something here. So it does not represent the relationship between objects outside. His argument when saying this was a famous argument. We can imagine empty space. You can imagine in your mind empty space without any object, but you cannot imagine in your mind an object, apple for example, without a space. Try. You cannot. You definitely will put it in a space template. That's it. All right. But this contain a fault. This argument. Okay. You can imagine them as PowerPoint templates. The space and time are pre-installed in the mind. So when you sense, for example, a phone or paper or something, your senses, the senses are raw data, so they go in the mind, and the mind put them in a space and time template. So he put them in a space template, which will become a knowledge for you to know the relationship in space between objects. Okay. I think I'll drop this. No need. Okay. So you know, in an apple falling someone, what happens? He said, since space, there is no physical space, and the impossibility for an infinity to exist is only in the physical space. It can exist without any problem in the mathematical space. So he said, since this is the case, so there is no. He said, where is the paradox? Because the paradox is talking about the physical space. He denied the physical space, constrained himself to the mathematical space, so there is no problem for him. So he can say, what's the paradox? There is not really. There is no really paradox. Easily, just deny the physical space and everything is solved. But in his deduction process, he has a fault. It's not several fault, but people, I don't know why people don't reply to him a lot. The fault is when you are the inability to imagine object without space does not mean that space is the only condition of the mind. Meaning, I will explain. When I cannot imagine an object here in my mind without space, it does not mean that space is just a mental thing. It might be a physical thing in the same time. What's the problem in that? So it's a deduction from one side. So there is a side he should have closed it. So, and we can carry further on this. There is another argument, but it will get quite long or limited with time. In conclusion, Immanuel Kant's solution to the paradox does not really solve the problem, because Immanuel Kant has to prove he didn't prove it completely. There is a gap in his deduction process, and not just a gap. I claim there is a fault in his deduction process, not just a gap. Okay, now the most beautiful solution, mathematical solution. It's easy one. Okay, we can express these parts of space as a sequence, A-N. A is the ratio, which is not the ratio, sorry. The first term is A. Here is the first term is half, and then R is the ratio. So R here is half because you are multiplying by half each time. All right. Okay. Here is an example. If we ought to, for an object to move 8 meters, it needs to move first 4 meters, and then 2 meters, and so on. So the first term is 4 here, and the ratio will sit as 2. We can't change the ratio to 1/3 or anything. Alright, by infinite geometric series theorem, if the ratio is less, the absolute value of the ratio is less than 1, the series would converge. You just substitute the first term there, and the 1 minus, which is 4, 1 minus 4 minus the ratio, which is half here, so 4 over half is 8, so it would converge eventually, when you eventually by the theorem. Alright, and it holds up for any ratio, because you can change r between 1 and 0, 1/8 or 1/3. You can change the ratio easily. Yeah. Okay, so it's solved, no problem. Hallelujah, no. Everyone are happy. But did it? Notice that in the sequence, in the series, the notation of series, there's an infinity there up. Okay. Again, if we are talking about the mathematical space, there is no problem to push infinity into existence. All right, and but what happened here? We did push it into existence. We assume infinity does exist here in this solution. In the physical world, the assumption is it does exist in the physical world because the objects are because we are talking about object, not mathematics, not a mental image. All right. So it does not really solve the problem. It's another representation of the paradox. That's all. Pushing infinity into existence, into reality, is of course a forbidden act of mind. All right. So it failed, the solution. Lesson didn't give mathematicians a physics problem. Now back to history. Now the Islamic philosophy is, or it's part of it, not all of it. It's called Ilm al-Kalam. We'll go back to, it started around 800 BC and it's almost ongoing. There is actually an attempt to bring all that heritage and re-criticize it and develop on it. And anyone who works in this field is called a mutakallim. So a mutakallim is basically a Muslim philosopher. Mutakallimun, which is the general Islamic philosophy, there are many school of thoughts are included in this field. The first one is al-Mu'tazila. It's a famous one. Many brilliant philosophers and scientists who are Mu'tazila from this school of thought. Another one is Ash'ari, and there is others. Some of them is in between. They say they take some of that and some of that. The above and the below. All right. They were a Mu'tazili. He belonged to the Mu'tazila school of thought. His name was Ibrahim al-Nadham. He lived between the 700 and 800 BC. So 1,000 years almost after Zeno. 1,000. Actually more than 1,000. He is first class scholar, philosopher and critical thinker, and sometimes he did some experiment, so experimentalist, known for his sharp intelligence. He's teacher of the famous Mu'tazili Nadham, Al-Jahiz. Al-Jahiz is well famous, very famous. So this is his teacher, and no wonder that Al-Jahiz studied at his hands. Okay, he said, this is the solution. He said, Nadham, when we see two objects, he took two assumptions, are true, definitely. The first one, we see objects move to a finite distance in a finite time, or they converge by mathematicians' term. The second assumption, which is no, infinity does not exist in reality. This is logical, and I think maybe he's influenced by the Quran. Maybe I don't know. But the discreteness of the word was known for the Muslim scholars, mutakallimun, because they said the word is divided into the matter of the word is divided to a finite parts. They call it the singular essence, al-jawhar al-fard. So that part is you can maybe to an extent you can call it something nearby the atom or something. So the matter of the world can be divided into finite parts. It cannot be divided more than that. You can mentally divide it more, but in the physical world it won't be divided more. So there is a limit, and that limit they call it of matter. They call it the singular essence. Okay. He says those two are true, absolutely true. He trusted in his senses. There is one and only one possible solution. And objects don't really cross the distance, the whole distance between 2 points in space. Between A and B, there is a small distances. Objects don't cross it; they jump on it. They disappear from here and appear there. And he called it the tafra. It's like a jump in English, but it's more precise than just a jump. Because jump take a finite time, but طفرة بالعربي تقفز فجأة. شيء يطفر, it's like an unusual act. طفرة. So it's unusual act that a particle move from 2 points without crossing the distance between them. And it's known as طفرة النظام. Okay, if you zoom in space, there is an element. This is what he said. Which object don't cross the space but skips it. Okay, this is exactly in the essence is the quantum jump. In its essence, the quantum jump. We know from physics that when an electron jumps from one orbit to the other, it does not cross the distance between them. It disappears from here and appear there. It does not. You can find it there between the orbits. So it's not immediate. I don't know if it's immediate, but I don't think it's immediate jump. But it does not cross the distance. So this is well proven and well established in physics. Okay, let's review his solution. Does it contain an internal contradiction? Especially because it's weird that you say, actually people didn't like the idea. They like him because he's a great philosopher, but this idea it was in history wasn't really discussed a lot. Does the claim contain an internal contradiction that make it us rejected? It's actually not, because if there is a logical contradiction, bring it. Otherwise, it's a habit. It's not really. It's against the habit, but it's not really against the logic. All right. We don't see things jump without crossing the distance. It's against the habit, but it's not against the logic. So you are between two. You either you stick with this idea against the habit, or the other option is you say that infinity exists. Either infinity exists in reality, or your senses mislead you. So you are all of them are difficult. The least two are impossible, almost. So this is the least weirder one. all of them are weird, but this is the least weird one. Okay, we need the quantum jump to be weird. So otherwise, infinity will exist in reality. Otherwise, motion will be impossible. As you can see, quantization is not a new fashion in physics. It's really old. Okay, but there is quite difference between the quantum jump and طفرة النظام in concept. The quantum jump is reached using the scientific methods, and the طفرة النظام was only deduced by pure reasoning, by pure thinking. You just sit and think. So that you can with pure thinking reach great results. Quantum jump does not quantize all space. I think there is an attempt to quantize space and time, combine them together with the relativity, but I don't know. I don't read on that. But النظام jump, طفرة النظام, it quantizes all space. All the space is quantized with النظام. In the quantum jump, the limit in which the two particles don't move the distance between them is related with Planck constant. But النظام jump didn't provide, of course, any limit. Because it's just a philosophy, he didn't do an experiment. Of course, it's nearly impossible to start quantum mechanics at those days. So physics in history was originally a part of philosophy, so a secondary field of research in philosophy. So Aristotle, when most of philosophical old books, when they start with physics. And physics, it's a philosophy book, physics, and then metaphysics, and then ethics, and so on. So philosophy gave birth to physics. And the philosophical thinking has its reliability. Nowadays, a lot of there is I think from what I see, there is in the philosophical, in the physics, even some mathematician, there is anti-philosophy movement. I don't know why, but I think it's wrong. If you read the thing, then criticize it. Otherwise, you just making claims. Of course, theoretical physics nowadays are the philosophers these days. Essentially, they sit and think and do simple math. Also, some people think that Muslims they were just a storage for the Greek philosophy, and then they just transfer it without thinking, without any achievement, without any work, and that's definitely wrong. This I hope this presentation is proven. Every civilization have its contributions. Indians have their contributions. Babylonians, Egyptians, Arabs, Greek, all of them. You cannot claim that one civilization which you cannot give people out there. You can't strip them out of their work. Right. Of course, this is the last part, which is about Al-Nizam and his طفرة النظام, was brought to life by an Iraqi physicist, Muhammad Basit al-Tair. I think guys, you all know him. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the nice presentation. Now it is open for questions. If you have any questions related to it.
Anyone?
No? Okay. I have one question. So when you are talking about this discreteness of space, right? Some space is not occupied when it is jumping. So what about the starting point? Like if you start from here, you go here, right? So if you start from some other point, you can reach that point. Is it the void doesn't really exist, or you cannot occupy that space in reality, or it is all relative? Like you can have a smallest distance jump possible. So
What do you mean?
Like-
you mean?
like if you are doing a jump, right? So that space in the reality is not like
Do you mean
achievable or
it's contained?
occupiable.
We can now, if we go further without physics, all of what we will say, it will be metaphysics. It will be just pure philosophical claims without any experiment. So I think this is the region where physics should come. This is the field of it.
Yeah, because for free particle we don't have this. Free particle have any energy levels we can have. But when it is a bound state, then you have this quantization.
In النظام طفرة he said even the free particle.
That's the difference. That
Yeah,
is the
that's
difference. And one more thing you said, like in the Big Bang theory. So before Big Bang, there is something, right? The energy, the whole condensed thing.
Before the energy, what was it?
I mean, that's the question then. So the idea is the time and space started to exist after the Big Bang. So we think about, we create a mental image of space and time after the Big Bang. So that's the idea of
But
physics.
mentally, from physical point of view, yes, but mentally you can ask. It's not a forbidden or it's not unlogical to ask. But in the the physical space and time, we can claim that they started there.
Yeah, if you believe in physics, then you can have, like, you can imagine something without the existence of space and time, right? Like you said, like we cannot imagine an object without. So you can imagine, like from physics point of view, space and time started to exist after Big Bang. So you can think about an object without space.
We are not talking about reality. Kant talked about the human mind only. So in the human mind,
it's a relative thinking, a mental image, basically.
Mentally, only mentally.
Okay. Great. Any other questions? Anybody? Yeah, please.
Thank you very much, Hamid, for a nice presentation. Actually, I've been engaged with this kind of questions all of my life, and I didn't find any solution, any answer.
Even to the Zeno?
Yes, actually, when I was 20 years old, I studied the book of Kant. As you said, he says that there is no space and time in reality. I think the actual solution for all of these kind of questions can be this: there is no reality, everything is mind. Do you have any definition of mind or reality? What is mind? What is reality? There is no definition.
Even existence, there is no, because any definition you will bring,
Actually, there is no criterion to distinguish what is mind, what is reality. If I close my eyes, you don't exist. Now you exist.
For you.
No. You are some part of my mind.
Yes.
Everything is some part of my mind.
Yeah, but
There is no reality. Then all of these these questions will be solved.
you have, yes, I agree with you. You have to make an assumption that a reality exists. unjustified assumption. This is unjustified. I say it in a
Think
plain.
about this question: what is mind? What is reality?
Yeah, I understand you.
What is mind? What is matter?
Yeah, you cannot. I mean, life won't go on if you don't take. You make this unjustified assumption that there is reality and it affects me by something. So it's just. I agree with you. It's unjustified, unjustifiable. It cannot be justified. This assumption. You just take it for granted. We all do this anyway.
It was very beautiful talk.
Yeah, connected to that, like I also thought about this something long back. If a kid is born without the five senses, right? No eyesight, no hearing, no touch, no smell, nothing. What is the universe for him? So what is the thinking going on, or what is it?
Only mental.
Yes, everything for us are signals coming from somewhere. We say they are coming from the real world or outside. What is outside, we don't know, because now in my brain I have a collection of signals. Voice, light, only collection of signals exist.
So you do agree with Kant?
Sorry?
Don't you? I feel that you agree with Kant, or you see his claims are more probable than the others.
Let me give an example. Your dishtasha is white, yes?
Yes.
No, I feel it white.
It's a.
Inside my brain, it is white. In reality,
It's-
nobody knows what is the shape of that dishtasha, what is the color, and what is reality.
You mean no one would know the dishdasha in itself? Also, there is this assumption contains that unjustified another unjustified assumption that essence things have something in their essence like is not the direct property of them. I mean, not the senses I feel, but they have contained something in themselves that I cannot reach. It is another assumption, I think. So it's only a play of assumptions to an extent.
So, any other thing? Then we can thank him. One more round of applause, please. And we have limited time, so if anyone wants to give this kind of presentation, you can approach me. We can organize it. Okay. And thank you very much for joining. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
We brought coffee, but I think we'll put it in the physics lab. Wait.
Because I have a point.
You drink coffee?
No, thank you.
Really?
Thank you.